Book 11, The Argument. The Son of God presents to his Father the prayers of our first parents now repenting, and intercedes for them. God accepts them, but declares that they must no longer abide in paradise, sends Michael with a band of cherubim to dispossess them, but first to reveal to Adam future things. Michael is coming down. Adam shows to Eve certain ominous signs. He discerns Michael's approach, goes out to meet him. The angel denounces their departure. Eve's lamentation. Adam pleads but submits. The angel leads him up to a high hill, sets before him in vision what shall happen till the flood. Thus they in lowliest plight repentant stood, praying, for from the mercy seat above prevenient grace descending had removed the stony from their hearts, and made new flesh regenerate grow instead. That sighs now breathed unutterable, which the spirit of prayer inspired, and winged for heaven with speedier flight than loudest oratory. Yet their port not of mean suitors, nor important less seemed their petition than when the ancient pair in fables old, less ancient yet than these, Deucalion and chaste Pyrrha to restore, the race of mankind drowned before the shrine of Themis stood devout. To heaven their prayers flew up, nor missed the way by envious winds, blown vagabond or frustrate. In they passed dimensionless through heavenly doors, then clad with incense, where the golden altar fumed, by their great intercessor came in sight, before the Father's throne. Them the glad Son presenting, thus to intercede, began. See, Father, what first fruits on earth are sprung from thy implanted grace in man. These sighs and prayers which in this golden censer mix with incense, I thy priest before thee bring, fruits of more pleasing savour from thy seed, sown with contrition in his heart, than those which his own hand manuring all the trees of paradise could have produced, ere fallen from innocence. Now therefore bend thine ear to supplication, hear his sighs though mute. Unskilful with what words to pray, let me interpret for him, me his advocate, and propitiation. All his works on me, good or not good, engraft. My merit those shall perfect, and for these my death shall pay. Accept me, and in me from these receive the smell of peace toward mankind. Let him live before thee reconciled, at least his days numbered, though sad, till death his doom, which I to mitigate thus plead, not to reverse. To better life shall yield him, where with me all my redeemed may dwell in joy and bliss, made one with me, as I with thee am one. To whom the Father without cloud serene, all thy request for man accepted Son obtain, all thy request was my decree. But longer in that paradise to dwell, the law I gave to nature him forbids. Those pure immortal elements that know no gross, no unharmonious mixture foul, eject him tainted now, and purge him off as a distemper, gross to air as gross and mortal food, as may dispose him best for dissolution wrought by sin. That first distempered all things, and of incorrupt corrupted. I at first with two fair gifts created him endowed, with happiness and immortality, that fondly lost, this other served but to eternize woe, till I provided death. So death becomes his final remedy, and after life tried in sharp tribulation, and refined by faith and faithful works to second life. Waked in the renovation of the just, resigns him up with heaven and earth renewed. But let us call to synod all the blessed. Through heaven's wide bounds, from them I will not hide my judgments, how with mankind I proceed, as how with peccant angels late they saw, and in their state, though firm, stood more confirmed. He ended, and the sun gave signal high to the bright minister that watched. He blew his trumpet, heard in Oreb since, perhaps, when God descended, and perhaps once more to sound at general doom. The angelic blast filled all the regions, from the blissful bowers of amaranthine shade, fountain or spring, by the waters of life, where'er they sat in fellowships of joy. The sons of light hasted, resorting to the summons high, and took their seats, till from his throne supreme the Almighty thus pronounced his sovereign will. O sons, like one of us man is become, to know both good and evil since his taste of that defended fruit. But let him boast his knowledge of good lost and evil got happier, had sufficed him to have known good by itself and evil not at all. He sorrows now, repents, and prays contrite. My motions in him longer than they move, his heart I know, how variable and vain, self-left, lest Therefore his now bolder hand reach also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Dream at least to live forever. To remove him I decree, and send him from the garden forth to till the ground, whence he was taken, fitter soil. Michael, this my behest have thou in charge. Take to thee from among the cherubim thy choice of flaming warriors, lest the fiend, or in behalf of man, or to invade vacant possession some new trouble raise, hast thee, and from the paradise of God without remorse drive out the sinful pair. From hallowed ground the unholy, and denounce to them, and to their progeny from thence perpetual banishment, yet lest they faint at the sad sentence rigorously urged, for I behold them softened and with tears bewailing their excess, and all terror hide. If patiently thy bidding that they obey, dismiss not disconsolate, reveal to Adam what shall come in future days, as I shall thee enlighten, intermix my covenant in the woman's seed renewed. So send them forth, though sorrowing, yet in peace, and on the east side of the garden place, where entrance up from Eden easiest climbs, cherubic watch, and of a sword the flame, wide waving, all approach far off to fright, and guard all passage to the tree of life, lest paradise a receptacle prove to spirits foul, and all my trees their prey, with whose stolen fruit man once more to delude. He ceased, and the archangelic power prepared for swift descent. With him the cohort bright of watchful cherubim, 4 faces each had, like a double Janus, all their shapes spangled with eyes more numerous than those of Argus, and more wakeful than to drowse charmed with the Arcadian pipe, the pastoral reed of Hermes, or his opiate rod. Meanwhile, to re-salute the world with sacred light, Leucothea waked, and with fresh dews embalmed the earth. When Adam and first matron Eve had ended now their orisons, and found strength added from above, new hope to spring out of despair, joy, but with fear yet linked, which thus to Eve his welcome words renewed. Eve, easily may faith admit that all the good which we enjoy from heaven descends, but that from us aught should ascend to heaven, so prevalent as to concern the mind of God high blessed, or to incline his will, hard to belief may seem. Yet this will prayer, or one short sigh of humane breath upborne, even to the seat of God. For since I sought by prayer the offended deity to appease, kneeled and before him humbled all my heart, methought I saw him placable and mild, bending his ear, persuasion in me grew that I was heard, and with favor peace returned home to my breast, and to my memory his promise that thy seed shall bruise our foe, which then not minded in dismay, yet now assures me that the bitterness of death is past, and we shall live. Whence hail to thee, Eve rightly called, mother of all mankind, mother of all things living, since by thee man is to live, and all things live for man. To whom thus Eve, with sad demeanor meek, ill worthy I such title should belong to me transgressor, who for thee ordained a help, became thy snare. To me reproach rather belongs, distrust, and all dispraise, but infinite in pardon was my judge, that I who first brought death on all am graced, the source of life, next favorable thou, who highly thus to entitle me vouchsafed, far other name deserving. But the field to labor calls us now, with sweat imposed, though after sleepless night, for see the morn, all unconcerned with our unrest, begins her rosy progress smiling. Let us forth, I never from thy side henceforth to stray, where'er our day's work lies, though now enjoined laborious, till day droop. While here we dwell, what can be toilsome in these pleasant walks? Here let us live, though in fallen state, content. So spake, so wished much humbled Eve, but fate subscribed not. Nature first gave signs, impressed on bird, beast, air suddenly eclipsed, after short blush of morn, nigh in her sight, the bird of Jove stooped from his airy tour, 2 birds of gayest plume before him drove. Down from a hill, the beast that reigns in woods, first hunter then, pursued a gentle brace, goodliest of all the forest, hart and hind. Direct to the eastern gate was bent their flight. Adam observed, and with his eye the chase pursuing, not unmoved, to Eve thus spake. O Eve, some further change awaits us nigh, which heaven by these mute signs in nature shows, forerunners of his purpose, or to warn us haply too secure of our discharge from penalty, because from death released, some days, how long, and what till then our life who knows, or more than this, that we are dust, and thither must return and be no more. Why else this double object in our sight, of flight pursued in the air, and o'er the ground, one way the self-same hour? Why in the east darkness ere day's mid-course, and morning light more orient in yon western cloud that draws o'er the blue firmament a radiant white, and slow descends with something heavenly fraught? He erred not, for by this the heavenly bands down from a sky of jasper lighted now, in paradise, and on a hill made alt. A glorious apparition had not doubt and carnal fear that day dimmed Adam's eye. Not that more glorious when the angels met Jacob in Mahanaim, where he saw the field pavilioned with his guardians bright, nor that which on the flaming mount appeared in Dothan, covered with a camp of fire, against the Syrian king, who to surprise one man assassin-like had levied war unproclaimed. The princely hierarch in their bright stand there left his powers to seize possession of the garden. He alone, to find where Adam sheltered, took his way, not unperceived of Adam, who to Eve, while the great visitant approached, thus spake.